I'm going to be sharing with you in this video how to create boundaries in your life and how to actually do it for yourself, not others. Because the thing is that what you want to do is you want to have boundaries in your life for your own frame, for your own self, for its own sake. Not because you want to get some kind of validation or approval from something outside of you. It's becoming self-validating. Self-validation. It's like you're fulfilled simply just by being your own self. And any kind of validation that comes, it doesn't really affect you. It doesn't change the way that you are. You just are the way that you are, regardless of the external kind of stimuli that happens. And I'm going to share with you in this video exactly how you can do this. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, all the details for that will be down below. Now, what I want to start off this video with is the understanding that the key to having really, really good boundaries in your life is to, first of all, make a decision what you tolerate and what you do not tolerate. This could be around anything. This could be around the activities that you do in your life. This could be some kind of pattern, some kind of behavior, anything that involves you being some kind of way. You just got to decide what you tolerate and what you don't tolerate. And so when you have good boundaries, when you have strong and healthy boundaries, it doesn't make you, by the way, egotistical. It's just, if you want to be a healthy, functional human, it's about having those strong boundaries so that people will ask you, like, hey, do you want to participate in this thing? And you'll just say, nope, I've already learned that I don't like to do that. And that doesn't make you egotistical. I guess you could say you're going to have some kind of an ego, but that's kind of like what your ego is in a way. It's your character. It's your character, right? But you can consciously craft your character, and it doesn't have to be like an unhealthy thing, right? Because you need it. You need a character. You need a character, and you need an ego. Without an ego and without a character, what do you have? You have, ultimately speaking, you don't really have much. You don't have much. You don't know who you are. You need to know who you are if you want to be a functional human. I don't know personally how it is for others, but for me, if I want to feel a strong sense of rootedness, a strong sense of groundedness, I need to tell myself a story. I need a story. Like, I need something to ground myself into. And without this, it's just, there's no root. You don't have a strong root. And without a strong root, you're going to be in a lot of fear. People are going to be pulling you in their movie, in their life. And it's not fun. It's not fun to do that. So you got to decide what you tolerate and what you don't tolerate. This could be around anything, any aspect of your life. You want to start to become conscious of what it is that you prefer and what you don't prefer. And I want to make it very clear, this is not about seeing like one thing as better and one thing as worse. It's not like you think that you're better, although perhaps maybe some people will perceive you in that it's like, oh, he thinks that he's so much better. It's like, no, some people might project that onto you, but you know deep in your heart that you don't see yourself as better or worse. Some people might think that you're trying to do it to be better than them. They might look at you and be like, oh wow, that, he or she has a really, really big ego, and he or she thinks he's better than me. But it's like, no, it's like, they might think that you're angry. It's like, oh, he's so angry. He has such a big ego. But to you, it's like, no, I just know what I like and what I don't like. Right? And I don't really experience a lot of people seeing me in that way. But hey, I don't know, right? A lot of these people won't say anything. But some people might project something onto you. They might get angry at you. I've had it sometimes where people will project onto me and think certain things about me and think that I'm whatever, right? But it's like, no, it's actually more just about you're doing it so that you can feel a sense of rootedness and for its own sake. You don't really care about how people see you. And if there's any part of you caring about how people see you, you care about how they see you for you. So it's like, for example, you dress up and you look good and you make yourself clean for yourself. And of course, it's interconnected. Like, in a way, you're doing it for others, but first and foremost, you're doing it for yourself. So the key is to simply decide what it is that you tolerate in your life. And again, this can be on anything. A foundation for anybody, I would say, is tolerate zero abuse of any kind. Any kind of abuse or behavior that's causing you to bring yourself down. It's bringing you down, making you feel like drained or disconnected from your root, from your groundedness. Just have a strong no to that. Just like, nope. It's not about anger. It's not about fighting. It's not about being angry. It's just about like, no, I just don't do that. It's not about like anger. And again, when you have a strong root, when you have a strong groundedness in who you are, people might think that you're angry, but it's not about that. It's just about having a boundary. It's about a boundary. The very nature of a boundary means that you will trigger some people. Some people are going to get triggered. And some things are going to trigger you and repulse you. Right? You ever look at something and somebody, it's like, hey, you like this thing? And somebody goes like, ugh, like as a joke. They go like, ugh, but it's like and that can be really attractive. That can be attractive when somebody is really owning fully that they're repulsed by something. You ask somebody, hey, do you like this thing? And they're like, God, I hate that. It's disgusting to me, right? That can be very, very attractive. Why is it attractive? That's attractive because they know they're owning so powerfully and so fully. Like, no, to me, that thing disgusts me. Now, now one person might react to that person that's repulsed by that thing and be like, God, that's God. Why do they hate that? I don't want to be around that person. Another person might look at that and be like, whoa, I'm so attracted to that. I don't know what it is about this person, but they just own so fully that they dislike this thing. I want to be in their presence because I kind of resonate with that, right? And that's what it means. That's what true attraction actually is. You can't actually build polarity with any kind of relationship or connection and any kind of attraction in any area of your life if you're not willing to own any kind of boundaries around what you like and what you don't like. It's a necessity. It's a necessity. This is about separation. A lot of people in the spiritual community be like, oh, we're all one. We're all one. Yes, we're all one. But the game of life is not very fun if you don't have a sense of individuality. When you're in a relationship, the reason why a relationship is fun, the reason why it's exciting to any degree is because you have different preferences. And of course, if you're with a partner, there's going to be a lot of things that you resonate with. And that's just the nature of a connection. It's like you want to have some kind of similarity. Otherwise, you wouldn't be attracted in that way. But similarly, you do want to have some differences and disagree on some things in a healthy way and be like, hey, that thing that you like, God, it's disgusting. And the person may not agree with you. They may not agree with you, but they will respect you. They will respect you. They will very much so respect and honor the fact that they don't necessarily agree with every single thing that you like and don't like in your life, but they will respect it. And if somebody respects you, that's where your true power is, in the connection and in the relationship. And they're also going to have certain areas that you really respect. It's not about having power over the person, right? It's about having power over your own state. It's not about having power over another person, having boundaries with people. It's more about having power over your own state. It's about having your own connection to who you are. And that builds attraction. Now, the second thing that I want to share with you in this video is to become who you truly want to be. See, what happens is that when you grow up in society and you go through these programs and all this sort of like conditioning and all these different things, right? You need that to remember who you truly are, to remember your roots, and that you're an individual being. Because when you're born, you're basically just you're not even a real person. You're not your own character. You're not your own being. You're just sort of like you haven't become conscious that you can become your own being. You're basically just a sponge, and you're like all these different people, and you're very fragmented, and you don't know who you are, and that's normal. That's fine. We need that. It's not about judging or blaming or criticizing. We literally needed that because there has to be that contrast of life, right? There has to be. It has to exist. It has to exist. It's about integrating that, not judging it or blaming it or seeing it as bad. It's like, oh God, this society is so bad. It's like, look, you can blame society as much as you want, but if you didn't go to school and get programmed, you wouldn't know your ABCs, right? So you need your ABCs, right? Without your ABCs, you wouldn't be, you need that. Like, you need your ABCs. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you didn't get your ABCs, if you didn't learn your ABCs, then who are you going to blame? You need your ABCs, right? There's nobody to blame. There's nobody to argue with. You need your ABCs. You need to know the alphabet. If you don't know the alphabet, without that foundation, you're not going to have any sort of individuality at all. So you need to give away your power a little bit to then remember your power, and it's necessary to give away your power to then remember your power. Does that make sense? So the key is to, once you start becoming conscious and remembering again, it's like, oh yeah, I can become my own person. I can build my own character. I don't need to be just in this sort of like hive mind of reactivity and not knowing who I am and looking for seeking for validation and approval and not being who I truly am. It's like, you don't need to do any of that, because you're remembering. It's like, oh yeah, I can be my own person again. And that's very valuable. So what I encourage you to do, if you're watching this video, perhaps if you watch this video, perhaps you resonate with this, otherwise you probably wouldn't be watching this far, is I encourage you to simply become who you truly want to be. Decide. Imagine life is like it's like a simulation. It's like a hologram almost. I don't like to use that word a lot, but imagine it is kind of like a hologram. It's like a simulation. You can consciously craft your character. It's like a video game. And people are really afraid to do this. They're really afraid to craft their character because it's like there's so much conditioning going in a certain direction. It can be scary to take back your power and to become your own person again. That's a lot of responsibility. It takes responsibility and integrity to be your own person, to become who you truly want to be, who you prefer to be, not who you have to be, not who you believe you have to be, who you want to be. And who you want to be means, you know what that means? It means dropping guilt. It means dropping shame. Because when you've been programmed to be a certain way for so long, to become your own person means you have to drop all the storylines that you've been attached to, that you're only in that storyline to begin with because of all this guilt and shame. And there's this like assumption that you can't be your own person for whatever reason, right? We don't need to go into the details like why is that happening? Well, there's a lot of reasons, like conditioning, programming, fear-based timelines, like all these different things, right? But it's like you got to take back your power and become who you truly want to be. Now, what does this mean? This means that you don't want to be other types of ways. And do you see how that can kind of sound like very dividing and very separate, and kind of like you're angry or resentful at certain types of people? It can sound like that. But that's the nature of having your own boundary and your own energy field again. You are going to trigger some people, and some people are going to trigger you. But you're going to see those triggers as simply a cue to be like, oh yeah, well, actually, because some people will be like, oh, like if you see the trigger, if you're triggered by something, or go into the trigger. Not always. Not always. Sometimes you're triggered and you just know, actually, this trigger is pointing to the fact that I just don't want to be around that person. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, people talking about life is a reflection, reality is a reflection. It's like sometimes it's not a reflection. Sometimes it is a reflection, but you know what's reflecting to you? It's reflecting to you what you don't want to be. You know what I mean? It's like it's reflecting to you maybe something you've already embodied in the past, maybe something that's out of alignment with who you want to be, who you choose to be. And it's like, actually, you don't want, it's like it's triggering you. You don't want to move into certain triggers. You want to say, oh yeah, actually, I don't like that. I don't want to be around that. Like, I don't want to be around that. It's just what it is. I don't know how else to say it. Like, it's just what it is. It's like some things you just don't want to be around. And it doesn't mean that you're judging them or criticizing them or you have anything against them. It just means you don't want to be around certain types of people. You don't want to be around, like if something's making you uncomfortable, would you want to face your shadow? Like what? I only sound like this because I used to do this a lot in my past. I would have some kind of I would really be repulsed by something. I would really not resonate with something. And because I had this paradigm of like, oh, move into the fear, move into the shadow, right? I would dishonor how I feel and then go like face my shadow. And again, that was like, I guess it was useful to see what that's like, to go to dishonor how I feel, to dishonor my boundaries, that was actually a useful lesson. It was a lesson. I learned a lot. But guess what I learned? I learned to stop dishonoring how I feel. That was the lesson. But you can actually learn from my mistakes and just start to trust your feelings right now. If you believe you have to dishonor yourself in order to learn that again, then you might have to. I hope that's not the case for you. But really what I'm trying to say is that you have full permission to be who you want to be, who you prefer to be, and to simply ignore what you don't like. Doesn't make you egotistical, doesn't make you a bad person. You know what it makes you? It makes you a human being. A normal human is going to have certain likes and certain dislikes. If you want to be a normal human, I personally very much enjoy in my life being a normal human. I like to explore certain aspects of consciousness at certain times, but sometimes the most powerful and the most exciting exploration of consciousness is to be a normal human. That means eating healthy foods. I personally, for example, don't eat fast food. Now, look, sometimes maybe I'll eat some fast food. It's not like I'm so regimented that like I'm so disciplined that I'll never go out and like eat fast food. But it's like for the most of the times, you're just not going to see Francis like eating unhealthy. It's just not me. I'm just not going to be the type of person to like always be eating unhealthy. And I say that in that way because like you do you. It's not about like what I do. It's like you do what works for you. But I personally like to eat mostly whole foods, and that's what I prefer. Now, I'm not saying what you should do. I'm just saying what I do. And that's just one example. Right? It's like I don't want to give a lot of examples because I feel like we're all so individual. Like what I do really doesn't matter. And if it does matter, it's only to show you maybe what you like, or maybe it's to push you in a certain direction in terms of being like, well, I don't resonate with what he's saying. I like to speak very generally, but I also like to say things in a way that is going to apply to the most amount of people in like many different situations. Not to be so simple that it's like so general, but also not to be too specific. I like to be very broad and holistic with how I teach things. So I would encourage like a lot of people to not eat fast food because it's like unhealthy. But hey, once in a blue moon, or maybe even more for a certain period of time, nothing wrong with that. And so what I'm trying to say here is to just be who you want to be. Just be who you want to be, and don't feel any guilt or shame around that. You can always change, which brings me to the last point in this video, which I want to share with you, is don't be afraid to commit to something. Don't be afraid to commit to something, to commit to some identity. Such as, for example, not eating unhealthy food. Don't be afraid to commit to it. Don't be afraid to like separate yourself from some kind of energy. And I know how that it can be very scary. It can be very triggering. It can bring up emotion in you, in your body, because the moment that you choose one thing, it's gonna, you know why it's scary? You know why it brings up emotion? You know why it brings up like hesitation in your energy field, or like makes you feel scared or anxious when you're committing to something? Because the fear of lack immediately comes up. It's like, oh my gosh, it's FOMO. It's like, it's the fear of missing out. It's like, oh, but if I commit to this thing, what if I don't get to experience all those things over here? Oh my gosh! And the fear comes up and the anxiety comes up. It's like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? And it's like, look, I want you to remove the fear of lack. Remove the fear of lack, because lack is not real. You're going to be able to explore every single separation that ever existed. That's my belief. I don't believe in lack. So if you want to own a certain type of energy field, a certain type of boundaries, whatever that is for you, such as, for example, if maybe you don't eat fast food, or it's like you're only eating healthy foods right now, you can always readjust as you go. But don't be afraid to commit now and to separate yourself, to be a separate human, to separate yourself from a certain kind of, don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to separate yourself, because when you separate yourself, you become more attractive. And it's really fun to separate yourself from certain kinds of energies. For me personally, I was afraid for the longest time to separate myself from certain kinds of energies, because that fear would come up. But what's happening is all the fear that's coming up is just who you used to be. And you don't have enough consistency and dedication and commitment to see that the fear of lack is quite literally non-logical and makes no sense. It makes no sense. Because when you actually, you know what's funny? People are afraid to feel lack and not feel freedom in their life. Because you want freedom, right? It's like, oh, if I commit to this thing, I'm going to feel so, I'm not going to be as free. I'm not going to have as many choices if I'm committed to this thing, right? If I'm committed, I'm not going to have as many choices. And then the fear of lack comes up. But the thing is that, actually, what I found in my experience is that when I'm committed to certain things in my life, I feel more free, because I have more freedom inside of this container. Inside of a container. When you have a container, you feel very free inside the container. But if there's no container and you're so free that there's no container, you don't feel free at all. I actually feel very closed off in a box. It's very paradoxical. It's really backwards to what the ego thinks. What I found is that the more that I'm committed to certain things in my life, and I'm on the path of devotion and commitment and discipline, I personally find that I feel the most free in my life ever. When I don't commit to something because of the fear of missing out, I feel very not free. I feel very fragmented. I feel really scared. I feel not emotionally stable. I feel not emotionally intelligent. I feel like I'm pulled at the currents of life, and it's not fun. So don't be afraid to commit to something. And I encourage you to remove the fear of lack, because actually what you'll see is that freedom and that beauty in life that you're looking for can only exist when you commit to some kind of container, to some kind of box. You need a box. You need a box. You need a container. You actually need a box in your life. If you want to be sane, if you want to be rooted, if you want to be grounded, you need a box. And the people that are attracted to that will join you. And if you're not attracted to that, then that's good information. If you say something and you fully own who you are, and it creates a really, really big divide, and somebody gets triggered or angry, look, you know what that is? That's useful information that you don't want that person in your life. That's just what it is. It's useful information. It's useful information. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make you're better than them. It doesn't make you ego or whatever people come up with these days. It just means that you wouldn't even want it. You wouldn't even, like, based upon who you are becoming in that moment, that person is not going to be a good fit. That person will not be a good fit. And this is, of course, relative to who you are becoming in that moment. Maybe in another timeline, maybe in another state, maybe at another point in your life, that kind of energy will be something that you resonate with, and they are a good fit at a later time, or perhaps never in this lifetime, right? Or perhaps never. But it doesn't matter, because you want to remove the fear of lack. And if right now, in this moment, you're embodying something that you've chosen to embody, and something is not resonating, what you need to do here, and this is what you have to do. This is not like look, you've already told yourself you're going to be something. You have to do this. You kind of have to, I mean, you don't have to, but like you kind of do, because you've already set upon a certain trajectory. You've already set upon a certain type of reality for yourself. And you know that's who you want to be, right? You've already made the choice. So if you want to be in alignment with your choice, you've got to say, you know what? I've made this choice already. I'm going to remove this fear of lack. I'm going to ignore the fear and I'm going to commit. And what you'll find is that if you get on the other side of the fear, what happens is that fear of lack just kind of fades away, and then you start to feel much more free. You feel a relief, because it's almost like you've cleared some kind of energy that you were literally holding on to in your field. And when you're holding on to something that you don't resonate with, you're holding on to it. You're literally holding an energy in your body that you don't want to. How are you going to feel free if you're literally holding on to energy in your physical body? When I talk about like energy and all that, you hold it in your body. The physical body and the energy body are literally connected, right? The mind and the body are one thing. You cannot separate the mind from the body. The mind and the body are literally connected. So what happens is that when you commit to that thing anyways, regardless of the FOMO, the fear of missing out, then what happens is that you stay focused on your goal, you stay focused on the embodiment of who you prefer to be, you stay focused on that person that you want to be. What happens is that fear just fades away. It just fades away. And then you feel lighter. You feel more free. Yes, you're in a container. Yes, you've separated yourself from certain things, but do you feel any lack around that? Do you feel any like, what if I'm not going to be able to experience this old thing? No. Because think about it like this. You were already there. You already experienced that thing. What is there to lack? You can go back, but you already experienced it. So it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy where you're scared of not being able to experience something, and then you experience the same freaking thing that you're afraid of happening. Does that make sense? You're so afraid of repeating the same thing in your life, and then you don't make a choice because of that. You end up repeating the same thing in your life. And then really the smarter thing to do is to make the choice to go be who you want to be, and then you move through that fear and you realize that the fear was a lie. It's a lie. And you stop creating the self-fulfilling prophecies. Okay, and with that, I conclude this video. I sincerely hope that this video is valuable for you. Leave a comment down below if this is helpful for you. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Also, once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, all the details for that will be down below. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.